talk about Final Fantasy 11 since we're going down memory lane. Let's talk about Final Fantasy 11. Okay. So Final Fantasy 11, a video game that I also have a metric fuck ton of experience. Okay. Like you guys know, I have had an immense amount of nerd conversations regarding Final Fantasy 11. It is unbelievable. This will always be, I got to tell you, man, when I look back in history for the most influential video games in my life, I would have to say Final Fantasy 11 is top 5 easily. Like easily. It's not even close, right? So Final Fantasy 11 apparently is seeing a resurgence. And this is not the first time we talked about this. I think we talked about this like 5-6 months ago, where apparently, people were rediscovering the game and people were kind of like, falling back in love with the game. But Final Fantasy 11 has been getting rediscovered so much, and keep in mind, it's like 23 years old, that apparently it's been getting so many new players that they had to stop character creation on one of its busiest servers and are probably going to have to stop character creation in their other servers as well, at least for the time being, because this game, it's very old. It's very old. Now, I'm not surprised that Final Fantasy 11 is getting a resurgence because people, the MMORPG genre is missing a lot of things right now that a lot of the older games had. A sense of challenge, a sense of community, the community probably being the biggest thing, a sense of wonder, a sense of exploration. It's missing all that. Final Fantasy 11 has all of that. Final Fantasy 11, I don't know how it is now because obviously the game, when I quit the game, the level cap was 75. I think the level cap is 99 now. So I've been long gone from this game. So I don't know if they changed it. But from what I remember, Final Fantasy 11 was an extremely difficult video game. You had to have teammates. You could not solo in this game past level like 9 or 10. Once you got to level 10, you took your ass to the dunes and you got ready to join your first party, and you never stopped partying up since then. Right? But I imagine they probably changed it. They probably made it more casual, most likely. But back when I was playing it, holy shit, man. It was an amazing experience because I know some people don't like that required partying thing because it was very old school, right? What you would do is you would party up with a few people and you would basically have your typical classes, right? You have a tank, you would have 2 melee DPS, you would have a black mage and a white mage. And then you would go out, do your party, and you would find a camp spot, right? Like you would basically find a spot where you could pull monsters to, and then the tank or a ranged or somebody would go grab a monster, aggro it, pull it to the group. You guys would kill it. You would get the experience. You would rest. And while the mages were resting their mana, the puller would go out and pull again and it would you would just be doing that. And then you just be hanging out with everybody, talking this shit while you guys were leveling together. It was honestly a great experience. But I understand that for some people, especially now, people just don't have that level of patience. They just don't. People don't have that level of patience to sit around, try to find a party, advertise yourself to find a party, go level up, group up, find people. Like people are just very antisocial in what is supposed to be a super social video game. So I'm kind of happy to see games like this finding a rediscoverance, because what this means is that people are opening themselves up to video games like this again. And I think that's going to be good for the betterment of the overall online community, where people start learning a little bit of patience again. And, video games will not be scared to showcase that level of difficulty or wonder anymore. But unfortunately, I also think what's fueling this is people are really fucking mad at Final Fantasy 14. People are really mad at 14, myself included. 14 was such, this recent expansion was such a letdown. I can't even... I've talked about it so many times. I'm not going to talk about it again. But it was such a letdown that I think that this has led people to discover the roots of the game, and they end up going back to Final Fantasy 11 and they realize, wow, holy shit, the world is actually fun to explore. Every zone has badass music. It is a grand feeling video game. Like, you feel like you're exploring a world. You're not just in some random zone waiting for your dungeon queue to pop, like in Final Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft. Like, you actually got to go out there into the world and explore the fucking world. You got to know where you're going. You got to know like which zone has which enemies and what are good camping spots and how do you level and all. And before you know it, you realize that you're actually playing a game instead of just playing a dungeon fucking queue simulator. You know? So I don't know. I think 14 really dropped the ball. And I've been saying for a while now that if they don't get their shit together with this next expansion, it's not going to look good, bro. People are going to check out of this game very fast. Very, very fast. So I don't know. We'll see. One of the biggest differences between 14 and World of Warcraft was player housing, and now World of Warcraft has player housing, and it's infinite player housing. Everybody can get a house, and they're pushing that shit nonstop. Instead of them talking about raid bosses and difficult encounters and dungeons and all this shit, World of Warcraft, all their advertisements are literally about female streamers and player housing. It's the fucking Sims. So if player housing is the only thing that separates you from your competition, and now your competition has that, you better get your shit together. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, to be fair, Final Fantasy 14 has cat people. So, you know, all the gooners and furries, they're going to pick that. But, you know, still. Let me catch up on supers really quick. But that's a good story, man. I'm glad to see Final Fantasy 11's doing well. I consistently think about joining Final Fantasy 11 again, but then I remind myself that that's not a good idea. But I'm happy for the people that are. Wolf Cypher became a member all on his own. Shout out to Wolf Cypher. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then we got Smashed AT with a 5. I wonder if the economy being a crap show has contributed to the lack of time people have to party up in games like that. Back in the day, had more time. I don't know if that's true, bro. Honestly. I don't know if that's true. Because I'll explain it like this. Even back in the day, even on like World of Warcraft and stuff, one of the biggest arguments and one of the biggest fights that would happen all the time is casual versus hardcore. Literally all the time, which is why anytime someone says, oh, gaming was never negative until now, it's because of the chuds that gaming is negative. It's because of the YouTubers. Back in the day, people had a problem nobody talked about. That's bullshit. That is bullshit, okay? People would argue all the time on forums, in the game itself, and one of the biggest arguments was casual versus hardcore. Now, that argument really didn't come into Final Fantasy 11 because most Final Fantasy 11 players understood what the game was about, which was it's a hardcore game. Whether you are casual or not, it's a hardcore game. There are ways for casual players to get involved, but if you're not going to put in the effort, you could go fuck yourself and go to World of Warcraft. That's basically the attitude that 11 had back in the day. But in World of Warcraft, there was this fight nonstop about we have lives, we can't raid. It was just an excuse for somebody who wanted the best gear in the game but didn't want to put in the effort. I'm sorry. That's just the fucking truth. You could say, oh, I have a life, I have this, is that. That's fine. But then that means that you can't do everything. You can't do everything in the game. They had content for you that you could do, and they had content that the hardcore players could do. Everybody had something to do. But there was always that argument. And then what ended up happening was World of Warcraft, slowly but surely, it's a slippery slope. It's always a slippery slope. So they started listening to the more casual players, and they started implementing things that were, for the casuals. That's where the entire honor system came in from. I don't know if you guys know that, but the PvP honor system that was introduced in World of Warcraft was introduced for casual players. And the ironic thing is it ended up being one of the most hardcore things you could do in the game. To grind out honor, to try to become a Grand Marshal, you had to no-life that shit. So it was so ironic. But they did it because they were like, PvP's for casual players. We're going to allow you the ability to gear up your character in semi-decent gear through the PvP system. That was the entire reason why it existed. And then it ended up being the opposite. So anyway, so then they started listening some more. And it went from we want better gear opportunities to we want to be able to solo pretty much everything, to we don't even want to go to the dungeon anymore, to we don't even want to go to the battleground anymore, to queue. And then that's how you ended up having Dungeon Finder, raid finder, all this shit where you don't have to go to the dungeon anymore. You don't have to use a summoning stone anymore. You don't have to have the warlock ability to summon the raid anymore. It's a slippery slope. And before you know it, what starts off as we just want more options becomes we want everything. And if we don't have it, we're not happy. That's what it is. Again, it's fucking casual players, bro. I mean, I don't. I don't know. Listen. I casual some video games. I do, but those are video games that I'm just not willing to go hardcore in. I definitely casual some of them. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not going to go into a game that has a little bit more of a hardcore attitude as a more casual player and be like, I want you to design the entire game around me because I don't have the time to play your game. How does that make sense? Why are you going to design your entire video game around the people that don't have time to play your game anyway? What the fuck is the point of that? Thank you, Smash, for the 5. We got Jason Alator with a 5 says Final Fantasy 11 was designed to test your skills. If they brought something like that back in a different game, the woke would cry hard and want it toned down. That's true. That's absolutely true. I mean, it happens in video games now that aren't even MMORPGs. It happens in Dark Souls. It happens in all kinds of video games. You know, if I was more of a casual player, or I guess you could say like the modern audience, you know, today I was getting my ass kicked in Neo 3 because apparently I didn't do a side quest that would have removed one of the bosses that you had to fight back to back in one of the final Crucible areas. So I ended up having to fight 2 very difficult bosses back to back. Not only that, because I had to fight 2 difficult bosses, it was even worse that apparently I was under leveled by like 20 to 25 levels under where I was supposed to be. So I'm fighting 2 difficult bosses, one that's apparently optional, back to back. And if you die in the second boss, you have to fight the first boss again. And I spent the entire stream fighting these bosses. Had I been the modern audience, I would literally have stopped after like 5 tries. And I would have went online to complain about how the game is too hard and it has to be nerfed. Or some shit like that. You know? Some shit like that. But basically, we ended up beating the boss. We ended up beating both of them by the end of the stream, even though I'm 20 levels under and all that stuff. You got to farm levels? I don't give a shit. I did it without farming levels. Don't give a fuck, right? It's all about getting good. That's it. So, I mean, that's basically it. And again, no shade to the casual players. I don't mind if you're a casual player. I just hate that you have casual players that try to take the entire game and mold it around them. You know? Thank you, Jason Alator. I appreciate that. Let me check Rumble really quick, and then we're going to continue. Rumble is good. Okay, so that's it for Final Fantasy.